Your Story with Melinda Estabrooks, an exclusive presentation of Faith Strong Today.
Well, welcome back to another show on Your Story with Melinda. I've got a fantastic, wonderful guest with me, Ali Matthews, a multi-award winning recording artist. She's been performing for 35 years, which means she started when she was 2.
Exactly.
She's released 8 albums, another one's on the way. And listen to this, folks. She holds the Gospel Music Association, GMA, Canada record as the most awarded artist in history with 20 GMA Covenant Awards that you've won. You've won these. 44 times nominated, and she's won Female Vocal of the Year in 2011, 2012, and 2013. That's like a triple threat, Ali. Triple threat. AliMatthews.com. All the information about her and her album. She plays festivals. Incredible woman. But here's the thing. Listen to what people say about Ali. Pull it up here. Pretty amazing. So Larry Norman has said, and here we go. So Larry Norman, the godfather of Christian rock, has said, "I'm so happy that God has put Ali's voice into this world. And Billboard magazine, Larry LeBlanc has said about Ali, Ali Matthews' music touches the soul, providing both comfort and guidance." Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Billboard magazine, eh, Ali? That's pretty impressive.
You know, all these acclaim things are it's all smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah. Really. No, I mean, but Billboard magazine would just say that. I mean, you've got tons at Taylor Guitars, the Toronto Star, CBC Radio, Lorena McKenna, like all of them are saying great things. And that just speaks to who you are.
Oh,
I think that's amazing. Plus, come on, 20 GMA Covenant Awards. Amazing. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. I've got some questions, fun questions for you. And as we share the questions, our viewers and listeners are going to get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
So here we go. Would you rather, okay, it's top questions, play Radio City Music Hall in New York City, or the Royal Albert Hall in London, or Red Rocks Amphitheater in Morrison, Colorado?
Oh my goodness. Oh, New York City.
Yeah?
For sure.
Radio City Music Hall?
Yeah.
I would too.
Cool
I mean, I looked
question.
at them. I think that the Red Rocks Amphitheater is pretty neat, and Royal Albert Hall in London, because Adele played there, but I think the whole Radio City Music Hall.
You know, any of the above would
Okay,
suit
that's
me
true.
fine.
True enough. Okay, how about this one? Anybody in the world. And I would say, you know what? Past or present, so those who even have passed away or now, your dream collaboration. Who would you love to play a song with, sing with?
I think for sure James Taylor.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
And how come?
I love him. I
Yeah?
mean, I grew up with his music, and my whole life I've just loved his songs and his voice, and I thought he was kind of losing his voice over the last decade. Anytime I saw him on TV, it was getting a bit weak, and then I went to see him in London last month, and he was stellar. He still has it, and I love him.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. What about Brussels sprouts or liver and onions?
Do you know what? I love both.
Oh, you know what? I had a feeling when I wrote that question that you were going to say something like that.
I do.
You really do. Liver and onions with lots of ketchup or just plain?
Oh, no ketchup. No, I grew up having liver. I mean, I don't have it very often. Maybe once or twice a year I'll have it. But I love
knew
Brussels
it.
sprouts. They're one of my favorite
I had a
vegetables.
feeling. I was trying to make it
Yeah.
really... No, that's good. For me, I would have picked Brussels sprouts. Liver and onions have bad childhood memories because my mother would make it.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd have ketchup, and I put tons of ketchup to take the taste out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that helped.
It's a texture thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a texture thing. Okay, so both. Yeah. All right. Favorite moment or highlight in your musical career? So in your 35 years of performing, what would you say your favorite moment or highlight?
You know, I mean, I could pick out, times when I met celebrities or when I got to share the stage with famous people or whatever. But, you know, it's more of a simple thing that comes to mind. And one time when I was singing this afterwards, this man came up to me and he just had tears streaming down his face, this big burly man, and he just said, you know, that song that you performed, that song saved my life. He said I had that recording and I wanted to take my own life, and it was that song that, so, something like that really gives meaning to it. I could say, when I was on this stage or that stage, or I got to sing with so-and-so, and those are all sweet moments, and they're fun, and it's all gravy, right? It's all, but it's the real connection with people that means something to me.
I can tell that really drives you. That's something that's a really important value to you, eh?
Yeah.
That's not just about music for the sake of making music to make money and to get it to be a name, but it's actually to make a difference and change lives.
Yeah,
I can see that all over
absolutely.
you. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit, because I think that's a really special part of who you are. All right. Favorite song? It can be Christian. It can be not Christian, or whatever people say, mainstream or whatnot, and why?
I have so
many
favorite songs. Okay, well, I think I love Bonnie Raitt. She's like a great blues roots singer, and she had a song, I don't know, I guess it was back in the 80s or 90s, called I Can't Make You Love Me. Do you know that song?
I do.
And I just think it's one of the most beautifully written and performed songs ever. It just has, everything about it is perfect, and so, I'll often go to that song when I want to have a huge impact. Like when I want one of my own songs to really work, I study that song. So, it's powerful, emotional, and beautifully performed.
Would you love to play with her?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Bonnie, if you're listening. Allie. Next collaboration with James Taylor.
Bonnie and James.
Could you imagine?
That trio would work for me, yeah.
All right, how about the hardest part of being a woman? Because you exude this like strength. It's neat. You have a really uniqueness about you, because there's this softness about you, but you also have this strength and resiliency about you. Like even when you walk into a room, you can feel it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny, because I don't always feel that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just figuring stuff out as I go along. I love being a woman, and the older I get, the more I realize how incredible women are, and I value my tribe, my sisterhood. For me, I don't know. I think if you're a mother, for me, being a mother was life changing and is always continually life changing, and has just really given my life really special meaning. So probably would have something to do with my kids. Yeah.
So that's the hardest?
Oh, the hardest?
Yeah.
Well, they said the best.
Oh, maybe I
not
did.
the hardest.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the best way. So maybe we'll do the hardest. So the best is being a mom.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying, and having with your kids.
I
Yeah.
think so, for me, yeah.
And your daughter, because I see the pictures on Facebook.
Yes.
She's gorgeous.
She's amazing. She's just graduated from Hillsong.
Oh, really? So I was going to say, is
College.
she an artist type too?
She is, but she just wants to do like pastoral leadership of any kind. And
That's
just,
neat.
she's got a huge heart for God, and
Awesome.
Amazing girl.
So that's best. Okay, so hardest. Let's say hardest part. Because sometimes,
I think it's just that we have to work so hard to always be, perceived as being on top of things. And guys don't have to put makeup on. They don't have to. They don't
It's
have to.
true.
I feel like we have to do so much extra stuff just to prove our worth or our place, or depending, whatever your job may be. It just like takes a lot of extra effort as a woman. And that's, I know things have changed. Times have changed, and it is a lot better.
Yeah.
But I still feel that. Every once in a while I'll think, when I'm working with different musicians, different guys, and they don't have to think about what they're wearing or how they're putting themselves out there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
And there's so much, and then you have the added of how, for me, like how other women perceive you, how to not be you want to be assertive but not aggressive.
Exactly.
And when you are a strong woman, it's like, the balance of like, when I'm too aggressive, then they think I'm,
Yeah.
And then, but you want to be assertive to make sure that your voice is heard, but then you want to be kind and compassionate, but you don't want to be walked over. Like, I'm telling you, it's like this crazy constant, I'm thinking through these and managing all these like emotions and way, right?
I know.
It can
Or
be exhausting.
I've battled my weight for years, and if I'm up 10 pounds, it's like, oh, something's wrong with her. Oh, she's falling apart. Her life's a mess. And
Yeah.
wait a minute. It's just, I need to get back on the treadmill.
Yeah, I know, and I'm feeling good. I'm eating lots of yummy food. Those carbs. Because I'm not more sweet. I'm more like savory. So
Me
give me
too,
carbs
pasta.
and pasta and cheese. People are like, maybe you just gave up bread and pasta and cheese, Mel. And I'm like, no. Because I can give up chocolate and pie. Like I can actually give up sweets. Like I like chocolate, but it's not. But man, that pasta and that cheese and
I'm
bread.
exactly the same. Cheese,
I love cheese. When people give up cheese, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like sprinkling it on the pasta.
Yes. The idea is that you're supposed to think of it as a garnish. That's what I was told.
No.
It's not like a part of your meal.
Mine is
It's
always a
garnish.
part of it, half and half. I'm like, people are like, do you want cheese? I'm like, yeah. And more. They'll do a little sprinkle.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
more
We're
parm.
talking real cheese. Yeah.
That's totally true. All right. What would you say mission statement of your life or values that you would say you try to live by?
Wow. Well, I've learned especially in doing music, the incredible connection that you can make with people. And in order to do that, I think you have to be authentic, you have to be transparent, and you have to have grace for everyone, mercy and grace, and just accept people as they are. And, so that to me is, I try not judge anybody. I do not know what they've been through. I don't know what, I just love it, like loving without judgment and connecting with people on whatever level. That's what I long to do, and that's what gives that's what really fulfills me in my work.
Well, it's a good segue into, because my last question is sort of like this rapid fire is, what would you tell the next generation as far as being a storyteller and musician? Because I think there's a responsibility as a musician on the words and the songs you give to the world. Yeah. And people are like, what? I was like, no, but I really, just as a speaker, I'm very aware that as I speak, what I share gives weight, and there's a responsibility of what I say. And that's why sometimes when I go up and speak on a stage, I actually, as much as I'm an extrovert and I've been speaking for 22 years, there's this gravity of the responsibility of what I'm going to do right now.
Yeah.
As I step onto stage, I'm like, and now I'm going to speak.
Yes.
Am I doing what I'm saying? Do I believe what I'm saying? What I share, is it true? Is it going to be offer goodness to the world? And there are moments I stand on stage, Allie, and I'm like, oh my goodness, wow. Like there are moments while I'm speaking, I'm looking across, the sea of people, I'm like, this is big, which I feel that you would probably feel as well.
I totally do. And I say to an audience that, like I look out at them and I tell them, I'm looking out at you and you're looking at me, and we don't know one another. And yet I, for some reason, have this privilege of having your full attention right now. Yes. And so I always say, I don't want to give them fluff, I want to give them something with meat on it, and that I don't want to take for granted, and I think, thinking of the next generation, I think of, there's a lot of hope there. There's a lot of, there's a lot of wonderful stuff with the next generation, but there can also be this entitled thing that they have where, so I would encourage them to just not take themselves too seriously, but to not take for granted opportunities, and to be honest, and to be transparent, and to care, like to honestly care. Like don't say something if you don't really care about it. Yeah.
I think that's huge. Again, that's that whole part of responsibility of our words and our music.
Yeah.
Amazing. Let's start with you, because all of there's such wisdom in what you say. So thinking back 35 years, when you're a little girl, did you want to be a musician? A singer, songwriter all your life, or what? Yeah?
I would say from the time I was maybe 11, when, I was always in choirs and orchestras, so I had a lot of music around me all the time. But I wasn't really a soloist. I would audition in these children's choirs for a solo part, and I didn't have that voice, and my friends would get the parts and everything. But once I think I was about 11 or 12, when it was actually, I remember the song, it was Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life. Yeah.
I saw her in concert in the Philippines.
Did you?
With her dad. Oh, yeah, with Pat. It was Debbie Boone, Light Up Your Life tour, and Pat Boone was there too.
That's amazing.
And that is one of my favorite songs.
But, and as a little girl, I would hear that on the radio, and I remember being at camp with a bunch of girlfriends, and I started singing that. And my friends said, wow, you have a really beautiful voice. We didn't know you could sing like that. And I'm like, I didn't know I could either. So I think from then on in my preteens, I picked up guitar at 13, and I just got, I would listen to the radio, just top 40 radio, and it was Linda Ronstadt, who I studied how she sang.
Yeah.
I wanted to sing just like her, And then, contemporary Christian music was starting to come in. So, of course, there was Amy Grant. So I just really absorbed. I was a sponge. I absorbed it all. Wrote my first song when I was 14.
Wow.
It was really bad. And I think that the first 5 or 6 songs I wrote were really bad.
Yeah.
I don't think I wrote a good one until my late 20s, to tell you the truth.
Really, eh?
Yeah, because you have to live a little to have something to say,
Yeah.
really.
So at 14, you're like, popsicles and butterflies.
Actually, it was
Or was
called
it-
Good Old Country Music.
And at 14, you're like, yeah, I've been around the block there.
Oh, no, when I wrote one for an assignment for, do you remember the book, The Catcher in the Rye?
Yes.
I wrote a song about Holden and his little sister. And I remember my teacher was like, that's amazing. And she gave me like A+, and I'm just like, all I
Nice.
did was write a song instead of write a paper. So,
Well, hey, that actually works. Now you've given all these people ideas, all these kids, like, if I just
Exactly.
write songs and sing at the guitar, then maybe I don't have to do a full presentation.
exactly. Oh, no, I realized, okay, this
Smart.
is the ticket. This is the ticket, yeah.
Again, your background as far as your own faith in Jesus, like,
Yeah.
where did that come about, and how has your faith, sort of helped you and navigate
Yeah.
your musical career? Like, has it been?
Well, how long do you have? Because I could talk for hours here about
Well, this podcast, we could do an extended 4-hour.
Well, I have to say, I'm one of these people who's really blessed. At a very, very young age, I can remember knowing that Jesus walked with me. I can remember. I grew up in church, so I'm not one of those people who has this date where it was like this was my salvation day. I can remember sitting in church and feeling the presence of God and knowing that this was who I am, that I was a child of God. And that has never left me. The amazing thing is it has never left me. Now, I have gone through so many ups and downs where I could say to you, like I remember a few years back I was very, very ill, and I was in the hospital for a month, and I was in terrible pain, and I was close to death.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I had I had bowel issues my whole childhood, and then I had this awful. I had to have emergency surgery, and everything went wrong. And I was very, very ill, and in so much pain. And I kept thinking, okay, this is when I'm supposed to feel that God is holding my hand and saying everything's okay. And I didn't feel that, but and it took a year to recover from that. And after that, I looked back and I thought, it's like that footprints in the sand thing. Those were the times when maybe I didn't feel God, but He was carrying me.
Yeah.
And so I've always known that. I've always felt that. I've been so fortunate. And even going through deep, dark times, I've gone through broken relationships that it's, you just feel like you're at the end. But I never lose sight of the fact that God's grace is so powerful and ever present, and it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away no matter what I go through, no matter how ashamed I feel or how miserable I feel or how depressed I feel. Even if I can't quite grasp Him at that moment, I know that He hasn't left, and I'll get Him back soon. It's me who needs to climb back out of the hole that I'm in,
Yeah.
and so I've been really fortunate that way. I just in the last couple of years, I think I've felt God's grace more than I ever have in my life before.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think, for some, and I don't say this in any hoity-toity way, but I've had a lot of friends say to me, I never feel Him, or I struggle with really knowing Him and knowing His presence, that He's there.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it's never been a struggle, Allie. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been like, He's there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, when you went through your own broken relationships and things, Melinda, did you blame God? I'm like, no, because it was actually my free will choice of how things went down.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was a funny thing. I've had a very honest relationship with God,
Yeah.
and I've always known He was there and never really doubted it, which is an interesting thing because so many people are like, but I do all the time. I'm like, I know, and it's funny because I never have. Like, even when I went through depression or other things, it was dark, but I still felt His presence.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a thing. I'm like, no, and I've always had this childlike faith of Him, like that He was there, He was always with me, and even though I ran away, I always knew He was there. So it's a funny. So people are like, oh. I said, I know. So when they try to have those conversations where they're like all angsty and they want to get into like, God's not there and where is He? I'm like, sorry guys,
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but I've never doubted His presence or him not
Yeah.
being there.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, right. It's been an interesting thing in my own journey.
I mean, there have been times when I certainly haven't been walking with him, but I never doubted that he was there. He was just waiting.
That he wasn't walking with you.
Exactly.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And I think that too. When I was in my, I always call it my prodigal girl daughter stage, and walked away. It was never like a full walk. It was still like I was always never could go this way, right? But it was also like I knew he was there, even though I wasn't. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really so. Obviously, that must influence your writing and your songs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I have always just wanted to write what moves me, and it's interesting that I kind of fell into the gospel music or the Christian music genre. It wasn't on purpose. I wasn't saying I'm going to evangelize through my music, or I'm going to write worship songs for the church. And I never had those. I was never compelled to do that. I wanted to write stories of things that I witnessed or things that I experienced or feelings that I had. So my songs they're all over the place. They're little stories about people and or doubts or questions that I have myself and through all that, even I'll have a whole album that doesn't have Jesus in it. There's no Jesus in it. But people will say to me, you must have some kind of faith, right? Because and I love that because these songs are for everyone. That music is an amazing way to connect as human beings through our shared experiences, and so I want to reach as many people as I can. And I absolutely. My faith informs my music. It's infused in all my music, no matter what I'm writing about or singing about. Yeah.
Talk to me, because this is something as the show's called Your Story with Melinda. When I speak, even on my website, it's like being a storyteller. And essentially that's what you are, you're a storyteller.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that, because I think the importance of good storytellers in our world is so needed.
Yeah.
Because there are so many, now we're in sound bites. We're in a generation where it's quick little sound bites, little YouTube things. You don't want to go over 5 minutes for a clip because nobody lasts that long, right? And we've lost the essence of storytelling, like the thoughtfulness of sitting at a table and telling a story longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh,
and not necessarily always concluding it, because then we're like, okay, let's wrap it up, conclusion. And that's within the church. We do that. It's like, let's wrap it up. Everything's great. Well, it's like, no, storytelling is this ongoing process and thought, and we live it and relive it and experience it and question, and I think that's an important art form that we can't lose.
It's so interesting, everything you've just said. The last song that I recorded on this album that's coming out this summer was a duet with Tim Neufeld.
Yeah.
And it's called Story. And essentially, it's about the fact that God is writing a story in my life, and His story's not done. And that's a line in the song. Your story is not done. And I so agree with you about we need to honor one another's stories, and I think that's so important. My last CD was called "Tell Me a Story," and it really was about the idea of honoring the stories, the story of someone's life, whatever that may mean. I love that in a lot of cultures they'll put a stone on a grave just to kind of and you can go to in different African cultures, and then I know in the Jewish culture, you go to a grave and you'll see all these stones, and it's really someone has come and they've just taken a moment to honor the story of that person, and there's something powerful. I know, and I wrote about that in my last project, and I think we can't dismiss that, and we are so instant, right? Everything is wrap it up, but we need to honor the ups and downs of someone's life and what it means, and tell those stories. And it's powerful. It can be powerful if we allow it to be.
How do you feel with that, in that, as you write, you have the attention of these people, like you said earlier. You're sharing these truths or things that you believe are true. What are your feelings sometimes on stage when you're like, wow, I'm sharing this, and people are going to take it, receive it, could change their life? Like, what's that moment for you as an artist?
It really is incredible, and I have to sort of release it. It's out of my hands, because that's where I know that I'm a vessel. Really, I am a vessel, and I mean that for a lot of times I stayed away from leading worship, or I felt that was a huge responsibility, was to draw people into the presence of God. And I thought, I'm better at singing quirky little songs about things that I observe or things that I think, and that way I connect with people, and I don't have this huge obligation on my shoulders that it's my job to draw people into God's presence. And so I take it really, really seriously, but it's important for me to be authentic, and that's, I think, why in a lot of my songs I can laugh at myself. I can sing about strange things in life, and people will connect. And I can see on their faces when I'm singing in the audience. I wrote a song once called "Poised for a Fall," and it was about being your own biggest tripping over your own feet and trying to or being poised for yet another fall, and how gracefully I stand poised for a fall. And I thought, everyone's going to think I'm crazy. No one's going to get this song. And people afterwards said, I know exactly how you feel. They said that song resonated with me so much. So that's what I hope for. I just hope to be honest and transparent, even if it's silly, if it's goofy, or if it's really serious. And I just allow God to, do whatever he will with those songs. And I can see on people's faces, music is powerful, you know?
And that's life.
Yeah.
I love when people write about things that you're like, you know what? I relate to that. That's an everyday thing. It's not like this huge, magnificent moment that no one else has experienced. Because I think that's another issue. Like, there are moments you can sing about and you're like, okay, that's great. But when people start talking about love and loss and heartache and heartbreak and loneliness and funny things, you're like, yeah, that's me. They've just put it more eloquently than I could say. And then you sing along and you're like, jam into it, and you're like, it's the same thing too. Like, when I remember thinking for the first time, it was, only Christian music could come out of Christian worship leaders. And then I went to my first U2 concert, and they sang I Waited Patiently for the Lord and How Long. And I remember, Bono walks off stage, and like thousands of people have their hands up, and I'm like, they're singing a scripture. What? Like, it blew my mind in the way of being, brought up as a Christian, like Christian here, mainstream secular here. Yeah. And then Bono rips it apart, and we have our hands in the air, and brother, sister, Christian, not all in the stadium singing, how long to sing this song, right? How long? And I'm like, I'm bawling, because it was like God hit me and said, see, music can transcend. My words and truth can be sung from Bono, and actually they're worshiping. Maybe they don't know it. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't know it yet. Yeah. But they're actually singing to me the scripture. And it was crying because it was so beautiful, but I was also crying like God shook me up on that. Mm-hmm. About music and about what he and how he uses people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I was just like,
I think art has this incredible power, and we do tend to, we put God in a box, and we say, no, this is what it looks like. If it's for God, it has to look like this. And yet he's so much bigger than we know, and we underestimate how God will work in broken human beings. Absolutely
powerful.
Yeah,
Allie, I could talk to you for 3 hours.
I know.
So you need to come back. You definitely need to come back. You're a wonderful woman, really inspirational, and I think for anybody listening or watching, I mean, what you've said about Next Generation, about being authentic, not taking being a storyteller, for granted, but having that responsibility is such a good reminder. So thank you for being with me.
You're so welcome.
All right,
thank you.
Thanks. To get the full performance of Lucinda's House by Allie Matthews, go on Faith Strong Today's YouTube channel, or if you're watching this right now, click the link at the end of this episode.